Today we're going to take a look at BPF filters, and while it's possible to add BPF filters through the command line interface, it's not necessarily the best way to do it. You're probably better to do it through the GUI, and today we'll take a little look at what the differences are and how you use both. So in order to find your BPF filters, the first place you start is in the administration section under network interfaces. And if we had BPF filters, they would appear in this column here labeled BPF filter. And if I wanted to add one, let's say we're going to add a BPF filter onto interface number 4 here. You can go into the filter editor and we can say not, let's use net here and go 192.168.80.0.24 and then add a rule. And it's always wise to consider whether you need to add VLANs as well. So in this case we'll add a VLAN of 800. I know that this subnet and VLAN doesn't exist in my network, but just for demonstration purposes, you need to make sure that you get your subnets and get your VLANs, get them correct, get them aligned, otherwise your filter probably won't work the way you think it will. So we hit OK there, we hit save, and you can see now that the new BPF filter has popped up here. So let's just jump over and take a look at what that does in the n2os.conf.user file. So here's my n2os.conf.user file, and you can see that the new BPF filter has been added at the end of the file. So it's BPF filter IGB4 for the interface, and then net 192.168.80.0/24, what we expect, and VLAN 800. So that's where it appears. If I wanted to remove it, I could remove it from here. Just go down and delete that line and it would disappear. So in order to test the CLI side, I'll do that now and then we'll show you how to put it back with the CLI. So come down here, just delete it out, write the file out and exit. We'll switch back to the Guardian. So we're over here at the CLI, and here's my command. So conf.user, because that's where we're writing this command, that's where the change is happening. Configure the BPF filter on IGB4, and it's exactly as we wrote before, not net 192.168.80.0/24 and VLAN 800. And we hit enter, there's our success. We know that it's done. So what's that done in the conf.user file? Let's take another look. So I'm looking again at my conf.user file, and you could accuse me of using the same screenshot because it looks exactly the same. So there is no real difference in between the command or using the GUI to create a BPF filter. There really is no difference. The GUI is probably a little bit easier to use and you're less likely to make a mistake. If you were to leave out, for instance, the IGB4, actually, let's do this. Let's do this as an exercise. I'll flip back to the CLI. Okay, so I've come back to the CLI here. Now what I've done is called back the command, but I've changed it. I've removed the reference to the interface, and I've changed the subnet to .90.0 and changed the VLAN to 900. This would be an easy mistake to make. Ask me how I know. This would be an easy mistake to make, to come into the CLI thinking you're writing a BPF filter for one interface, forgetting to specify the interface, hitting enter, and let's show you what happens in the configuration file. So in the configuration file here, you only see one line added at the very bottom, but it's interesting to compare the two. They start off the same, BPF filter. But in the top one, in our correct one, we have IGB4, so we're specifying the interface. Whereas in the bottom one, we're not specifying the interface, which means this rule will be applied to every interface. And that may or may not be a good thing, but it's a lot easier to make that mistake here in the CLI than it is to make it in the GUI. Let's take a look at the GUI and see what's different there. So back in the network interfaces page, you'll see here that by failing to specify an interface in that last CLI command, we've created BPF filters on every interface now, which was not not the intention. That might not have been what you were trying to do. So that's one risk you run with any CLI command, is if you mess it up, you could have far-reaching impacts. So in this case, it's easier to use the GUI, the graphical interface, than it is to use the CLI. But as always, it's your choice, and part of understanding a system is knowing what things do and what the best way to solve a problem is. So there you go. Let's go with that.